Open up camp in 9 days for rookies and veterans. All eyes will be on that new quarterback, Kirk Cousins. New head coach Raheem Morris felt like the team was one piece away from being a playoff contender, so they signed the former Vikings quarterback to that 4-year, $180 million deal, even though he's coming off a torn Achilles. New offensive coordinator Zach Robinson was asked about one of Cousins' top playmakers, Kyle Pitts, and he said this: he's learning basically two different positions. There's some tight ends, some wide receiver, so he's got a lot on his plate. He's handled it really well. I'm just excited to see him continue to get more comfortable in the system. We'll move him around the formation. We'll use him as a blocker. We'll use him as a receiver. We'll use him all across the board. Back here with everybody, Tim, Pitts is one of those guys who could really blossom. We've been all waiting to get in the right offense. Do you like what Robinson is pitching right here?
I do, quite a bit. And look, I think that's what most good coaches try to do with really good players, is don't, just kind of have them, oh, hey, you're a tight end. You're going to line up right here all the time. You're going to run tight end routes. We're going to use you as a tight end. Just think about how some of the elite tight ends have been used in the past and are currently being used in the National Football League. Look, Jimmy Graham, when his contract was up, his agents were trying to say, no, he's not a tight end. He plays more receiver than tight end. I think Kyle Pitts is that type of player where, look, you got to move him around. You have to use him different ways. And I think that, it's just smart of Zach Robinson to say, all right, look, who's some of our best football players? How do we get the most out of them? And I think moving Kyle Pitts around is probably the best way to do that.
I think he will benefit greatly from Zach Robinson and, of course, from Kirk Cousins, the quarterback change, not just because of Kirk Cousins' overall level of play, but the specific ways in which Kyle Pitts is talented. First of all, people forget, his rookie season, he was incredibly productive. It was not that long ago. And he was particularly productive on throws that Kirk Cousins excels at, particularly throws over the middle of the field. I still remember Kyle Pitts catching crossers, taking them for tremendous yards after the catch. In fact, on in-breaking routes that season, he had the most EPA per play of any tight end, second most yards, only behind Mark Andrews. Kirk Cousins loves throwing to that part of the field. So to me, it's a good match of quarterback and player, and I think Zach Robinson will put him in a position to succeed.
I think people forget, Mina, that because it hasn't gone well, Kyle Pitts was the fourth pick in the whole draft. The next two guys picked were Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle. So at some point, somebody in Atlanta believed this was a potentially game-altering playmaker. And in terms of skill, I think that's what he can be expected to be. He was dealing last year with a knee injury that required an operation after the season ended. And that obviously limited him. And the quarterback play obviously limited him. That's why there's a new quarterback. That's why there's a new head coach. I think Kyle Pitts and Drake London, another top 10 pick, are expected to be able to create and win, mismatches at whatever part of the field that they're able to use them. And whoever's open, I think Kirk Cousins will be happy to make him the team's leading receiver. It could change game to game. I do think you'll see Bijan Robinson, the running back, another top 10 pick. I think you'll see him in much more of a workhorse role than you saw last year. He has that capability, and I think the Falcons are at a point where they're ready to start trying to maximize the value of these top 10 picks that really haven't blossomed the way they imagined they would.
I think a lot of people, because of how the draft went for the Falcons, a lot of people kind of fell out of favor with Kirk Cousins. I think even a lot of fans or maybe even media members almost feel like, Kirk Cousins shouldn't have even been signed, which I think is a tragedy. No, I shouldn't say tragedy. That's too strong of a term. But I think that's kind of sad because Kirk Cousins is a really, really good to great quarterback. And if you give him the weapons and the offense and the system and a competent offensive mind in the room, he will be able to do great things. It's just indisputable from my viewpoint. And he's been shown to be such a versatile and adaptable and quick learning quarterback that he should have very quick success with Atlanta. And the truth is that when we talk about Pitts or some of these other weapons, one, if you don't have a good offensive coordinator or an offensive head coach to be able to set these players up to succeed, you're not going to succeed. Not to mention, if you don't have consistency at the quarterback position for a young player like Pitts coming into the league, It's brutal. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. And it is so hard to get up and go to work game after game after game. No matter how professional you are, no matter how much you care, it just becomes brutal. It just is. And that's what the Falcons have been at the quarterback position. You've now solved that. You are going to get true consistency. I understand that Kirk Cousins isn't as fancy. He's not a shiny new toy like a CJ Stroud or a Joe Burrow or a Josh Allen. I get that. But Kirk Cousins is a top consistent quarterback. He is so consistent. He minimizes mistakes. He puts his players consistently also in positions to succeed. And he doesn't, we have a lot of quarterbacks that it's pretty much It's kind of goes both ways, where we kind of have quarterbacks that really rely on their team to kind of carry them, or the quarterback has to carry the team itself. And I'm not saying that Kirk Cousins carries his team, but he allows his team, he allows his offense to succeed, to do what they need to do. He doesn't hold them back. We have a lot of rosters, a lot of weapons that they're held back by their quarterback. The things that they can do, the quarterback can't put him in that position to succeed. That's not Kirk Cousins. If you want to say that Kirk Cousins can't do those next level things, okay, fine. I'll entertain that and even accept that. But what cannot be denied is that Kirk Cousins does not hold back his team at all. He can let that roster flourish. He can make the right decisions, which we're seeing now the younger version of that to a degree, and maybe even the better, more new, improved version of that in, say, a Brock Purdy. So when you have the weapons, when you have the coordinator, when you have the offense, all you have to do is just execute it. And which is also not the easiest thing to do. Not anyone can execute it. I think, and I've talked about this a lot recently, people think that anyone could do Brock Purdy's job, and that's just wrong. Wrong. So people see Kirk Cousins because he's not so fancy. He doesn't, come out of the gate with all of the million numbers, and they think, well, anyone can do it, and it's just not accurate. It's just not accurate. There's a reason why Kirk Cousins has been signed to all these teams and has been successful, and he's made all this money, because they all know that a quarterback like Kirk Cousins is not just a gimme quarterback. That what he does, he offers a tremendous amount to an offense. That if you give him the weapons, if you give him time in the pocket, and you give him a coordinator who can tie this all together, you're going to have tremendous amount of success. So I think Kyle Pitts will benefit also greatly from Kirk Cousins and Zach Robinson. And I think the Falcons as a whole are going to all benefit greatly, as long as, their head coach can kind of run an organization, right? Run a roster, run a team and a coaching staff, and doesn't end up being a disaster, which I'm not saying he will be. I'm just saying as long as he's not those things, then the Falcons should be really good. I have the Falcons winning the division personally. I don't want to say that they were just a quarterback away necessarily. I think that's, again, it's hard to tell when you don't have a quarterback what the heck you are. But the pieces are there. The pieces are there, and I think what they also did was smart was getting their new coordinator, who I think will also be able to tie that together. So I think there's a lot of a lot of exciting times for the Falcons moving forward, and I hope the fans and the media can see that, especially and just knowing that Kirk Cousins will play a huge role in that, right? A huge factor in that, because he also just brings his own experience, and his own expertise to the locker room, to the huddle, to the OC, right? It's going to be very collaborative in that regard. But what, again, also I think makes Kirk Cousins so great is also his kind of lack of ego as well. He doesn't try to insert his own identity within an NFL offense, right? I mean, yeah, obviously he still wants to be featured. He still wants to be, great in his own right. But he's definitely not the guy that's like, I'm going to win this game and we're going to win it because of me. He doesn't do that. And we see other quarterbacks do that all the time. You got a couple of quarterbacks like that in the division that do that. I won't name names, but I think you can probably guess who I'm talking about. And I just think that that's, the maturity of Kirk Cousins alone is going to be leaps and bounds, truly. And I think it's just going to be, I think you can get a lot of early success. I really, really do. And you really actually look at Kirk Cousins' numbers as well. The dude is like top 10 in all major quarterback categories, as long as when he was playing healthy and when he actually had like a legitimate team to be around him, right? When he actually had the roster, when he actually had the offensive coach, he put up the numbers. He put his money where his mouth is. So you have to just really ask yourself then, do the Falcons have those pieces? If they do, we know Kirk Cousins will succeed. And if they succeed, then where can the Falcons go from there? Pretty exciting. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think Kirk Cousins and Kyle Pitts and Zach Robinson will be a match made in heaven for the Falcons? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.